Good afternoon, and welcome to our 19th episode of Slow Living, a webinar series driven by sustainability rooted in community. I'm excited to welcome Steve and Abby Meyer from Main Street Mobility as our guest speakers for today's episode. Thank you so much for being with us today. Steve Meyer is the president and founder of Main Street Mobility. Inspired by Asian and European cities' use of tuk-tuks, rickshaws, and pedestrian-friendly streets, Steve started building pedicabs and worked with a variety of friends, engineers, and fellow sustainability enthusiasts to design durable and reliable forms of pedal transportation. Allie Meyer, daughter of Steve, has grown up alongside Main Street Mobility and helped with marketing and administration along the way. She hopes Main Street can help inspire entrepreneurs, politicians, and corporate decision makers to embrace pedal powered transportation in an effort to improve health for their cities. On this week's episode, the pedal powered duo will be giving us insight on current projects and the vision for Main Street Mobility. Before I turn the mic over to Steve and Allie, I would like to remind our audience that we will have a Q&A section at the end of their presentation. If you have any questions during their presentation, please type them into the chat box and I can call on you to ask Steve and Allie specifically when we get to that portion. So without further ado, Steve and Allie, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm Allie. This is Steve, and we're from Main Street Mobility, which you may better know as Main Street Pedicabs. We want to give you a quick history on what we've been doing with pedal power, how we got started, and then most of this presentation we want to spend telling you about some recent projects with pedal power all around the world and how it's being used, and some cool entrepreneurial and creative projects going on. So here's Main Street Pedicabs. That's how we started. Steve, my dad here, was what, 25 years ago?
It was 1992.
1992, building the first pedicab. That was right before I was born. And yeah, what was the goal for that first pedicab?
Well, I mean, the first pedicab was really brought about because I was mostly interested in pedestrian development in downtown areas to take to close streets to cars. And in Denver, there were some successful developments of pedestrian malls. But it became apparent that you can't really go from pedestrian to car really easily, that there's an intermediate space there that's necessary to fill with some mode of transportation. And so that's what spurred the idea of a pedicab that would be rebuilt for American standards, because I had been to Asia and they were really pretty rickety over there.
Yeah. So last mile transportation. And pedicabs, there were a few models that started off, but all of them were for carrying around passengers, pedestrians. And a big draw to it was the advertising capability of the vehicles. And you can see here in this Target parade here that Target just decked out these vehicles. It's a really great advertising space that draws eyes while also being functional in the city.
Right.
So what happened that created the switch from pedicabs carrying pedestrians to your more recent products and our more recent products of pedal trucks and carrying cargo?
Well, by far the most vehicles we've made have been pedicabs. And so the two big components about pedicabs were that a lot of cities needed this form of transportation, that there were a lot of people walking. It was very difficult at the time to start taxi businesses. It was before Uber, but because the bicycles were pedal powered, they didn't fall under the same restrictions that starting a taxi company would have. And so it really quickly flourished. And we never got any government funding. We never, in the form of having a sustainable business, we never got really any loans. What really funded us was that they were such a great presentation for advertising, and a lot of businesses supported us, especially beer companies and consumer product companies. So that was a lot of fun working with them and doing that. But it didn't take long before people would see the pedicabs and think, well, we want to do something else. And there's a good example here. You see the picture on the left where they have a camera on this vehicle.
Is this one of the Google Street View?
Yeah, that's a Google Street View trike. So one afternoon I was called by somebody and said, hey, we're in San Francisco. We see you made these pedicabs. Can you make a trike for us that would carry a camera? And I said, yeah, we could do that. So we ended up with a big project making a lot of trikes for Google that they took all over the world to places that were inaccessible by car. One of my favorites is that they took them down the Amazon River and pedaled them through villages.
And we have a mini video clip of that in a few slides here.
Oh, you included that? Great.
Yes.
We'll point that out.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the more notable ones. That wasn't the first. I think the first one was we started getting called by recycling centers at universities that wanted trucks. We got called by zoos that wanted pedal trucks, because having pedal power is part of a mission statement of an environmentally motivated organization. If you have a recycling company, the only reason you have a recycling company on a campus is because you're environmentally, you have an environmental mission. And so we were consistent with the environmental mission of a lot of organizations, zoos, composting services, and recycling, I would say
City
the most.
Bike here.
Well, and City Bike, yeah, okay. So once they started bike sharing companies, so bike sharing came after we started, but once companies like City Bike formed, we had hundreds of pedicabs in New York City, and then City Bike is formed, and to rebalance, so that was a docked bicycle system where all of the bicycles had to be parked at docks. Yeah,
different stations.
And they would become imbalanced in terms of too many bikes in one part of the city, not enough bikes in the other. And yeah, they can use trucks to do that, but again, that's inconsistent with their mission. And so they had us make pedal trucks and trailers to move the bicycles around the city. So City Bike in New York was one of the biggest ones, and we did it for a number of other cities.
Nice. Yeah, so once these got away from carrying pedestrians to then carrying cargo, the world's our oyster there, and there's just so many ways that this could go. So that's what the past few years have been. Here you can see a beer bike. We have a page on that coming soon that holds beer and is great for events, parades, and could even be expanded to other beverages, kombucha, coffee, pedal it around, and perfect for entrepreneurs trying to start their own business with that. And then also innovating more with our pedicabs with a new 6-seater model that is awesome for big events, really popular at music festivals like Coachella, where the drivers can just spend entire days riding around people and making tons of tips. So just continuing to innovate in the ways that the community needs.
Right.
Here's our why behind Main Street. Just real quick, some of the things that motivate Main Street in the innovation. Environment, making places more eco-friendly, fresher air, quieter streets, just a more enjoyable experience for everyone in the city. Entrepreneurship, I think something that makes us really excited is helping entrepreneurs with whatever endeavor they have in mind, incorporate pedal power into that. And I know I really enjoy being at the factory and hearing Steve on the phone talking with customers, giving them advice of how to start, and just really believing in them and motivating them to just get out on the streets and get started with whatever business they're trying to do. And then innovation, we want to make durable, sustainable, and vehicles that cater to a wide variety of purposes. And that's why Main Street's really unique in making custom vehicles where you put in an order and the vehicle is made just for you. It's not a mass production thing, but we really want to cater it just to the person and just to the institution buying. So we just have some pictures for you guys to enjoy here, and we'll just explain a little bit about these recent years and how we see pedal power moving around the world. These pictures are from a variety of different countries. I think top left is Tahiti. I know bottom left is Spain, and I actually saw and met these people when I was there. They're still actively riding those around, giving rides from the airport and ports to little shops nearby and around Malaga, especially with all the pedestrian areas. And then this is Paris under the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, it's Paris.
Where's that bottom right?
That's
one?
Milan.
So really popular in tourist areas. And I think with electric assist, we haven't mentioned electric assist yet. They're able to expand to so many more areas because you can cover so much more distance and so much more different terrain with hills and higher friction paths, and can get a lot farther.
Yeah, you know what? The electric assist is going to be a huge game changer for really urban mobility. So electric assist bikes, I think, are already a big game changer. But you know, I always kind of put it this way: Elon Musk can put an electric motor in a car, but it's still a car. But if you add an electric motor to a bicycle, it's much more than a bicycle. And
it can do so much more.
It can do so much more. So bicycles aren't defined by the number of wheels they have. So that's not what defines a bicycle by law in the United States. What defines it is that it's pedal powered, it's human powered. But they've made an exception that you can have up to a 750 watt motor. Well, putting 750 watts on your bicycle is like adding Lance Armstrong in the final sprint. That's about what he does, 750 watts, when he's at his biggest output. So that's quite a change for somebody to be able to add that to their power on a bicycle. Mm-hmm. So you're able to carry a lot more weight. You're able to go a lot further. And, you know, in the case of operating these businesses like pedicab drivers, it used to be confined to a population that was able to pedal other people around. But now I'm, you know, in my late 60s, I can, with an electric assist pedicab, be with all the other young guys out there taking people from the football game. So this is going to open up the pedicab opportunity to a lot older population that would have never done it otherwise. And I think that that's going to be important to supplement your Social Security or your retirement. A lot of people, you know, this kind of job is really fun because you're out there on the streets, you're meeting a lot of people. And I think that I'm glad the electric assist came along, and will open up a lot more opportunity.
Yeah, it's exciting. And, you know, it can be charged with solar. You have people charging them with solar power, and
totally carbon free.
Yeah, just gives you so many options. So here is in New York, right?
Yeah, that's in New York City, Times Square.
we just want to touch on pedal power and the opportunity it's given people to create their own life and a lot of freedom around their work. And you had a story about this guy, right?
Well, this is one of my favorite stories. This man called me up. He's immigrant from Nigeria, and he called me up one time, and I worked with him for a while in terms of him buying a pedicab.
Mhm.
And when I was back in New York in Columbus Circle, I walked up to this person with a pedicab, and I didn't know it was him, and started talking to him, and he tells me his name, and I go, Mohamedou, I'm Steve Meyer. And his eyes light up, and he told me his whole story. Him coming
man, I
to
didn't
the
know
United
that.
States. He worked as a janitor, but he had a friend who worked and got a pedicab, and now this was his own pedicab, and he is sitting on his own business right now. He owns one pedicab, and to him, he has achieved the American dream. This is such a leap for him. And sometimes we have to see the opportunity that we have in this country through the eyes of somebody coming here. And this is doing better than he ever imagined, being a pedicab driver, owning his own pedicab in New York City. He's doing a lot better than he did being a janitor. And he's, you can see he's pretty happy.
Yeah, that's cool. And I just get excited. This was when mainly everything was pedicabs and a lot of the other vehicles hadn't come out yet. But that same entrepreneurial opportunity comes with all pedal power. I mean, you can have a pedal powered personal training business. I've thought about doing that because I'm fitness industry. Group exercise, landscaping. Just pack your business into one of the pedal trucks, and you could take it so far. Oh, but we're not there yet. First, we have this video of 50 Santas, and just wanted to touch on.
Let's hear it for Bama Santa from Alabama. Here he comes. Give him a big round of applause.
So this is
Let's hear it for Arizona with a cactus hat. Spiky.
just how pedicabs have been used in parades. We keep getting people.
Let's hear it.
Now, how do I move on? Okay, here we are. So here's someone who made a little breakfast burrito sales out of their delivery truck and driving through the snow. That's pretty impressive. And then they just slide that little window open, and their burritos are in there. And yeah, did they decorate this themselves?
Yes, they did that themselves.
It's just, yeah, that's a way to get creative. Is that in Colorado?
Yes.
Okay. And then here we have the Marley coffee, which was actually started by a relative of Bob Marley who lived in Denver. And yeah, I looked this up.
Oh, you did?
It was
Okay.
a
Great, you know more.
relative of Bob Marley, and they started Marley Coffee and have this little mobile coffee shop. We've seen quite a few of these and little cafes as well. So great way to take an existing coffee shop that has, what's it called? Storefront, a normal store, and bring it out to streets in a pedestrian area or a park, or just have your whole shop right here.
Right. So it starts little street businesses.
This one, can you tell us more about this one?
Well, so one of the things about urban life these days is certain sections of the cities get closed off to having access to good food. And so there's a lot of, this is one example of many we've done, making trucks that, or vending trucks that will take vegetables and wholesome food to areas that don't have a lot of that. And so this is a food delivery business, Goodness Groceries. They operated in a section of Denver where I think they call them food deserts or something, where there's not a lot of good food available, and they would deliver food. And And it makes me happy to work with organizations like that. Again, I think a lot of it ties into social entrepreneurship. They're naturally drawn to pedal power. By pedal power speaks for itself in terms of being a good socially oriented mode of transportation.
And again, with the advertising, we've found people really drawn to this for their businesses because it's so eye-catching and unique to see this on the street, and then you are immediately drawn to the ad and what company is running the bike, and great way to advertise while you're on the run. So as Steve mentioned before, we've gotten very involved with compost, different compost companies picking up compost at residential places and also restaurants
Offices,
and stuff,
yeah,
office
restaurants.
buildings, yeah.
So that's in New York City right there.
New York. That's a more recent one.
Right.
Here's a variety of campuses that are using the pedal trucks for landscaping. I love this because I know on my college campus, I hated when there were cars on the sidewalks, so loud, and I just hated when I'm walking on the sidewalk and it drives by, all the fumes are going into my face. It's just very unpleasant. And I just don't think campuses are a place that cars and trucks should be driving around. It's not really what the sidewalks are meant for. And I love how these campuses have embraced pedal power, and it's just such a more pleasant atmosphere and experience for students and for the workers as well, who get to be out in the fresh air and, you know, getting exercise versus just sitting there. And I think it's just such a practical use. What was the first campus that did this? Do you know?
University of Colorado.
Oh, really? I did
Well,
see one for them,
Well,
but
not for groundskeeping. They used it for
Okay.
recycling. So
Mhm.
this is the University of California, Davis. And so, you know, Davis, California is famous for its bicycling culture. And so that was good. This is in New Haven, Connecticut, the one on the right.
Mhm.
And they have a town square. So yeah, you're right, Allie. I mean, this is motivated because these are less intrusive vehicles to have in these pedestrian spaces.
Mhm. Yeah. All right, here's the street view trike we were talking about. And you said Amazon?
Yeah, well, Google had these. So,
No, but it's.
well, this is the Amazon River,
Yeah, along the Amazon River.
but it's Google company. And so they
Yeah.
peddle these through villages.
Yeah, just a quick clip there. And awesome that they put it on top of this boat. That's very creative.
Well, yeah, you couldn't do that with a
Nice.
pickup truck.
I like it.
Oh, that's
Okay.
this.
Yeah, we talked about this one already.
Yeah,
City Bike, and there were a couple different cities that did this. Portland, Oregon was one of them. New York. Is this one in New York?
no, that's New York. San
Mhm.
Francisco bought a lot of them. A number of cities
Yeah. So
have these.
that was great to see a bike carrying a bike. They're all friends. All right, well, that's all for our pictures and stories of what's happening these past few years in the pedal power world, and just seeing all the creativity there is out there with it. For a takeaway or just something to keep the wheels turning, we want everyone to just consider, how can we in our daily life support sustainable powered transportation, whether that's supporting pedal power entrepreneurs or any other way that's just sustainable and like we were talking about earlier before this, just voting for what you want in the world. What do you want your city to look like, and how are we, you know, using the type of transportation we want in the world? And then business owners and campus directors, is there a way your campus or operations can be improved with pedal power, replacing cars and trucks, for just a better experience for the drivers, for the pedestrians, and cleaner campus? Anything to add to
Well,
that?
yeah, I mean, I think you put it well. You know, we're at a time where we have to choose the directions that we're moving and what kind of world we want to live in. And I think that people have to make a bold decision now of how we're going to move forward. I do think that you know, sustainable transportation is fundamental in bringing about a new world that is you know, carbon free. You know, so much is used in gasoline transport, but also distributing the opportunities for economic opportunities. I mean, I want to see decentralization of a lot of things. So, for example, with cars, it takes a big factory. These can actually be made in somebody's garage, and I don't mind encouraging the competition or people to compete with me in making their own pedal-powered vehicle.
We
that
just
can do
want
a
to see
job.
them out there.
Yeah, we want
We
to see
just
them out
want
there.
it to be more pedal power. Yeah.
So give us a question. We'll try to help you out here.
Yeah, and that goes to the last point. Entrepreneurs, we love supporting entrepreneurs and creative ideas using our pedal powered bases, and would love to hear your ideas and help you get started. So that's all we have.
Yes, thank you so much for an amazing presentation. I mean, it's just great to hear all about all the experiences and kind of how it's been throughout, you know, beginning, middle, and then where you guys are leading into the future, right? And honestly, I have to applaud you because that entrepreneurial like harborship and that spirit is something that has allowed RYM to even thrive in this date and age. And to our audience, many of you might not know this, but Steve was one of the very first contacts for RYM, kind of talking a little bit more how we can be sustainable and transport large quantities of waste via pedal power. So I can't thank you enough for your mentorship. But to open up the Q&A section, I would like to start with my own personal question. I know, you know, we're trying to go net zero and carbon emissions, things like that. And so when it comes down to industrial material and you building the pedicabs, how much of that is actually locally sourced and how much of that do you actually have to ship into Colorado?
Well, in the bicycle industry, there's things that the whole bicycle industry is dependent on Taiwan and China for
Okay.
a lot of components. So I can't even think of a derailleur, for example, that is made in the United States. I can't think of a bicycle rim that is made in the United States or a tire. But there are a lot of components that were made, especially for our bike, and those were made in Broomfield, Colorado, and in Louisville, Colorado. So we were lucky, and we couldn't have easily started this business outside of this region because we had so much bicycle entrepreneurship going on here, even back 30 years. So a lot of it, all of the steel we fabricate within our shop. So this is an American-made product. I mean, they have, when we export, we have to say what percentage is American-made, and it's, you know, 90% of the value added is done here in the United States and in our shop.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. And so I see another question coming from Mark, and so I'll certainly unmute Mark, and he'll ask you specifically himself. Mark, you should be unmuted.
Steve, Allie, it's Mark. Thanks for the presentation. It was excellent. I'm curious about the current crisis that we're in with COVID and whether or not you've been involved with delivery of goods or perhaps maybe thinking about delivery of goods to folks that may be homebound, or, you know, for fear of you know, of the disease. And, you know, thinking about this and perhaps the next pandemic that comes in the future, you know, how can your organization help, if you're doing it already, it'd be great to hear. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. I think that we, at the very beginning when things were shutting down, our top priority was just keeping our employees getting paychecks and keeping some life and energy in the business. But it definitely did slow down, and we sort of went into a hibernation with all of this, with not any orders coming in. And we actually, we don't have the vehicles, like I said earlier, we don't mass produce, we only make the vehicle if someone orders it. So we actually don't have these vehicles in our facility, and we're not operators of the vehicles, we're just manufacturing them. So I don't know, have you heard any stories of people using their vehicles during the pandemic?
A lot of them are using them for food delivery. So this is a very decentralized business. So we don't give information. We pass along as a conduit information of what other people are doing in different cities. And so a lot of the pedicabs have been used for food delivery. A lot of them have had the cabs taken off and made into delivery trikes.
I know Fresh Food Connect in Denver is a great example of that, and they're also somewhat connected to that Goodness Grocers that we showed, and I believe both of those have been running throughout the pandemic.
We're using them for urban gardens, so I think urban gardening is going to be a big thing in the future, and we're working with several urban gardens for delivery vehicles. Again, it's the same mission-driven approach. One of the things that we've seen really grow in terms of the whole pedicab industry is that used to be a pedicab was taken from point A to point B as a taxi, but that part of the business really faded. But a part of the business that really picked up was the pedicabs being used to give tours. And so people were just coming downtown. They couldn't go to a bar. They couldn't go to a restaurant. They just wanted to go for a ride. And so the pedicabs were operating like that. So the wait,
I want to add too, an awesome thing, organization in Denver, Athena Project Arts, did during the shutdown as well. We can't take credit for any of these things. These are just our customers doing cool things with the vehicles. But Athena Project Arts had a bunch of pedicabs in a pedal-powered parade with musicians riding in the pedicabs around the Santa Fe Art District. They wanted to go into slightly lower income neighborhoods and bring art to the people because all the museums were shut down and people were so stuck at home. So Athena Project Arts brought the art to the people through music and actual art pieces, and the pedicabs were involved in that. That was fun to be a part of. I got to be there.
Yeah, well, you just brought up something that I'd forgotten about, is how many musicians we are being carted around, and people are calling us now specifically for music trikes in maybe anticipation that this COVID will last another summer. But we took a lot of musicians around to socially distant concerts where we would just go down the street and people would be on their front lawns listening to the musicians pass. So there's a lot of ingenuity going on, and I love that. I mean, I just love seeing people resilient and adapting to the times. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it's great. And more. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Awesome question, Mark. And thank you so much for answering that with multiple, different instances of ingenuity, like you were suggesting. So we have another question that came in from Victoria, and this will be our final question to kind of wrap up the webinar, but I will unmute her. But great question, Mark. Thanks so much.
Hi, thank you, both of you, for the presentation. I had a quick question about the life cycle of the bicycles and if you're able to responsibly reuse or recycle the bike and its pieces and parts, if something were to happen to it, especially if the bike is out of your hands and someone else is operating it for their own business? How can you kind of be sure that they're responsibly recycling or reusing the bike if something happens to it?
I can answer the first part about life cycle, and Steve can probably add, because I did a little bit of marketing I've just been slightly involved and mostly in marketing, but there hasn't been a lot of need for marketing in a lot of points because we have so many customers that are so vocal about their products being just really good quality and long lasting and durable. And I think that's something that I've been really excited about learning about Main Street, is just all the comments I get on, or like messages I get on our Instagram, just about how the vehicles really last a long time and they're, one of the most durable brands out there, at least people who are in the industry biking around on them. Do you have anything about people reusing the parts or know how long?
Well, I think, so the bicycles are obviously an assemblage of a lot of different things, and the frames last forever. I mean, I know that some pedicabs have done the equivalent of going around the world 2 or 3 times. I mean, some of the original pedicabs that we sold in New York City are still there.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Wow.
And some of the first pedicabs I sold in the 90s are still going.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
But they do have new wheels on them. They have new tires. So all of these, so can you recycle a rubber tire? Yes, you can. So that component is recyclable. Can you recycle any of the metallic parts of the pedicab? Could be recycled. So, the chains wear out. I'm not really sure what they do with the old chains. We don't take them back. We don't have a circular system here, but I know that all the metal can be recycled. I can't think of a part of the pedicab that can't be recycled, except for maybe some of the fabric used in the upholstery. That's about the only thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I don't.
Metal.
Yeah.
So,
And yeah, from what I've heard, people who bought their pedicabs at the beginning when we first started, 20 years ago, still have them. So.
Well, that has been one of the biggest points of our current situation with COVID. So many of the pedicabs were sold on the secondary market, and we cannot compete with a used pedicab.
Because it still works so
well. Because it still works. And we can't, the only reason we can sell a new pedicab is when there's no used pedicabs on the market. The industry has to be expanding for us to stay in business, really, because they last forever.
Interesting.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria.
Great question. Thank you so much, Victoria. Well, we are at the end of the webinar. I just want to thank you, Steve, and you, Ali, for being here and presenting and giving us a little bit more insight on your incredible company and your mission. To everybody attending, thank you for your questions and viewing a little bit more about this local company that is making such a difference in the world. So to everybody, we like to say, respect your mother and respect each other. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon and evening. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks,
We
Kevin.
should turn on some lights in here.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.